Welcome back to the Home of Chrome. Today we're back on the 70 Cadillac and we're going to give its fuel system the boost it needs. That's right, folks. We are putting the Edelbrock micro electronic fuel pump on it. This is what they call the clicky clack type of fuel pump. We're not going to use it as the primary fuel pump for this car. We're just going to use it to give the system a little bit extra boost. Because right now, with the way it sits on a hill, it does it in my 74 too, so I don't think it's the mechanical fuel pump issue. But when they sit on a hill like this, they have a hard time getting that fuel out of the tank and up to the carburetor where it belongs. So we're just going to use this as a just a little helper pump to get it out of the tank and up to the mechanical fuel pump, and then it's going to go in. So the plan is we're going to wire this into the ambulance side of the electrical wiring on this car, which is up here on this panel, and we're going to go from there. I think this is going to work out pretty well. Okay, so I've decided that I'm going to use the fuse panel that is down on the tow board on the passenger side for my power source for the fuel pump. And I believe those wires, say supply, controlled by this panel here. We're going to find out. I've got the, looks like 5 screws off here on the bottom that actually hold the panel to the dash. But now I've got to take this off here, and we'll see where all these wires go. So we'll figure it out, because I'd rather use like maybe this emergency light switch here, because, well, this car doesn't have emergency lights. So there is a space for a fuse down there that's empty with no wire running to it. So I imagine it's probably that one. So we're going to find out. But let me take this off and we'll see together, huh? So the instructions say to plug it into or connect it to a switched 12-volt system or 12-volt source, and this is what they mean right here. You can connect it to your ignition, so when you turn the key, it automatically runs. You can run it off your fuel or off your oil pressure sender. There's things that you have to get in order for that to work, but this right here is going to be pretty simple. So this is the main power switch or power lock. This is the main power wire for this switch. Okay, power comes in here, this switch comes on like this, activates a relay down below after connections made inside here, and comes out through this here, and this is basically just a ground for this switch itself. So what our plan is we're going to take that wire through this hole down here on the bottom, and there is a fuse panel, fingers out of the way, there's a fuse panel right there, and that second one from your left is not used. So the plan is we're going to take that wire through there or down through the dashboard, and we're going to plug it into that, and then there's a hole just to the bottom right of that panel to where it's going to go outside of the car. So I'm going to try to get that wire run, and we'll get back with you. What we had to do to get to that opening in there where we can run the wire, there's a air conditioner vent hose that goes from here up to the top. That had to come out. Once that came out, I was able to reach in and pull this red wire down. So now we've got it coming across here, and it is going to go, like I said, right there. Oh, I'm sorry, right there. I've got a glass fuse to put in here, and then we're going to run the power wire that goes to the pump from here back to the back of the car. Now I am using a 14 gauge wire just because over a run that long you don't want to use a too small of wire, because Ohm's law, don't know what Ohm's law is, you should probably look it up. If you're going to go over a long distance, you'll want to use a heavier gauge wire, so that way it will carry the current to where it needs to go, and the device that you're operating will get full power. If I was to use, let's say, a 18, 20 gauge wire, those are getting kind of thin. You're going to have a current drop across that wire, so you're not going to get the power that you need. You're not going to get the operation that you want out of your pump. So on a car that is 22 feet long, the minimum that you'll want to use is a 14. Normally I would try to find like a 12 or something like that, but that's getting kind of crazy as far as things go. But I think since we're not going a full 20, the 14 gauge wire I think is going to be fine. I could probably even go to a 16, and that would be okay too, but I think 12 would be too much. 16 would be okay. 14 I think is going to be just right. So I'm going to get everything plugged in. I've got to go find my spade type connectors, which I forgot to do while I was out earlier, and we'll come back to it. Just gonna take this wire here loose. Okay. Just gonna tuck it up out of the way. There's nothing on this one here. Do that number there. Okay. Bring the wiring over here to around about where I need it to go. It's gonna go right about there, so we're gonna cut this right there. Strip it back. About like so. You don't need to take too much off of this, okay? Just enough to get it in your connector. So the connector I took off of it was one that was kind of, or not kind of, it was an open style. I don't like this packaging. This is just gonna make a mess everywhere. I'm gonna lose everything. Anyway, okay. So yeah, you don't want to take too much off, because then you run the risk of having bare wire hanging out. You don't want too much bare wire hanging out. You don't really want any bare wire hanging out, but you don't want a lot. You know what I'm saying? I hope so, because I don't. I just squeezed that wrong. I know somebody's gonna let me know, and that's okay. Just shows that you're watching. A little extra there, please. So what I'm going to do is that switch, it normally runs the emergency lights. Well, it would run the emergency lights, but like I said, this car doesn't have emergency lights. So we're just going to move that switch over to one of the on-off switches, or on-off locations. We have a couple locations that are just marked on-off. I imagine it's for accessory equipment. So that's what we're going to do. We'll use this, keep that piece there as a little jumper or something at some point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through this hole. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there, right here. See See that little light right there? That's a hole. That runs right out here, just behind the wheel well on the passenger side. Okay, well that right there, that should be enough, but I'm gonna cut it a little long, err on the safe side. Wrap this up and get this out of here. And then again, we're going to strip this wire back just a little bit. Alrighty. I have an idea of what it is we're doing. Right there. Another fork style connector. Oops. Yeah. Give her another squeeze here. Well, I ruined that one. Don't know how. I think I missed it. Anyway, fact of the matter is ruined it. So again, the entire purpose for this fuel pump is not to completely supply this big 472 with it. I just need it to help the fuel get out of the tank to prime that carburetor. And then we'll let the other fuel pump, the mechanical fuel pump, we'll let it do its job. Well, get it in there, Pat. Jeez. Okay. So now, if my calculations are correct, which they're probably not, I'm going to put a fuse in here. This is a 3-amp fuse. Now that little fuse, hopefully that works. You know what? That probably will. I don't know, we'll find out. Alright, so we've got the switch in the on position. We have that red wire that's coming up right here. That goes to the back of the car, or will go to the back of the car. And so you see, we hook this up to a ground. Works just like we want it to. And we'll come up here, we'll switch it off. Well, she's still giving us power. Okay, so what we've run into is this switch here is the emergency light switch. The switch itself there's something wrong with it. It is constantly open or closed. I don't remember which one it is. Either way, it's always on. So no matter what position this switch is in, the fuel pump runs. So what I've done is I know this switch here works, okay? This is for the panel lights. And what the panel light switch does is it turns on the backlighting for this panel. I'm not too much worried about it because, well, like I said, I'm never gonna have lights on this, and I can pretty much have an idea of what switches need to be on if I wanna run like my rear dome or rear air conditioning or rear heat. So not a big deal. I do know this one works. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook everything else back up, and I'm gonna put an inline fuse in because I'm gonna hook this back up to where the fuse is, and we're gonna go from there and see if that works. Okay, so the problem that we've run into on using the fuse block that's over here in the passenger side floorboard, the way it's set up, it gets constant power to everything all the time. That's not going to work for our application. So what I've done is I've hooked into the panel light switch on top of the dashboard, and I'm just going to connect the two wires together with a inline glass fuse. So that's what we're going to do now, and then we can test it again and start working our way to the back and start getting that set up. I know probably for a lot of you guys out there, this is all easy, no-brainer work, which, I mean, it is. It's pretty easy work. But I've never hooked up one of these before. So following the instructions, pretty much doing a how-to. And so if you're finding this video because this is your first time hooking one of these up, only take this as a guide. This is not a tutorial on how to do this. So if you burn your car down, it's not my fault. I will not be held liable for your work. I'm just doing this the best that I know how, the safest way I know how. And if there's any of you out there in YouTube land that are watching this and you see me do something stupid, let me know. Let me know, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to do something stupid. And get this. Get that in there. Get this in here. Okay. Like I said, glass fuse and line. All right. According to that works. All right, so back under the car here, we've got, this is the return line. This is going to be our supply line. The instructions say to have it at or just below the lowest level of the tank. But as you can see, there's literally nowhere here to mount that. So we're going to go next best, and we're going to mount it just up here on this brace across here. So I went ahead and I got some extra fuel line. Hopefully we can make it work. They say to do it at or below the lowest, so that way gravity will feed into it and it will self-prime. So we'll get it there. Okay, I just want to get one thing clear before everybody starts commenting. That's not the proper way. I know it's not the proper way. Okay, that right there, this is all just being installed right now to test whether or not my thought on how this is going to work is correct or not. So I know this is not the correct way. When I find out if this is going to work, if we have leaks and things like that, then I will put it in correctly. Okay, don't come at me in the comments saying that I don't know what I'm doing, which, because I know I don't know what I'm doing, but I know that this is not the correct way. So just want to get that clear. There we go. She's running now. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Home Chrome. We got the fuel pump up and running. The car does run with that fuel pump on as a booster. Still need to do a little fine tuning on the carburetor, things like that. The car is running though, and that's a huge plus. Next week, I think we're going to get in there in the back again and start assessing what we need to do with that rust, get that cleaned up, start trying to get that squared away. Got a couple of little things going on around here. So yeah, like, share, subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And hopefully you learned something today. Remember, only do what I do, take only what I do as a reference. Do not do it as advice. I'm not going to be responsible if you burn your car down. We'll talk to you later, guys. See ya. Bye.